Hello, thank you for joining in today's cooking segment during the American Kidney Fund's Kidney Action Week. Kidney Action Week is our initiative to provide education on kidney disease, prevention, and management. We would like to thank U.S. Renal Care for supporting this event. My name is Linda Blaylock. I'm owner of CKD Culinary Consulting. I'm a professional cook, and I'm also a culinary consultant for American Kidney Fund, which means I get to test a lot of those recipes that you're seeing on the website, making sure, they're up to standard, that they're really great for you guys. I also get to create some recipes too. And if you would like, you could find me on Facebook, and that's at facebook.com/healthyhappyflavor. I also have an Instagram page, so that's Instagram, and the ending is CKD Culinary Consulting. And you could also check out my website if you wish, is ckdculinaryconsulting.com. Today, we are going to be making the Native American inspired spicy corn salad. Now, this is one of my favorites. I tested it and I fell in love with it. So I think it's a really great recipe for you to try. It serves 6 if you want it more as a meal, or as a side dish, it'll serve 12. And it's very quick and easy to make. It takes about 15-20 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the ingredient. What we have here is we're going to need our oil, and the recipe is on site, or it's going to be listed for you. We have the oil, we have a cup of leeks, and we have a cup of diced red bell peppers. We have 2 cups of corn. Now with the corn, you could do like 2 to 3 ears of fresh corn that's already been cooked and cooled, and you can slice those kernels right off of there if you want to do that, which is really wonderful because it really brings fresh flavor. But if we're out of season for corn, go ahead and get a 15-ounce can of no salt added corn and drain that. Then we also have our yellow squash, which is it's crook neck or straight neck. It's the yellow zucchini squash is what I like to call it because of the shape of it. So we've got the yellow zucchini squash, that's 1 cup. We have 1 cup of Roma tomatoes cut up, and the reason I like to use Roma is because they're very fleshy and they have very little seeds. So it just kind of, to me, seems like you're getting more tomato for the price that you're paying, which generally they're very inexpensive. So good one to use. And we also have a 1/4 cup of diced jalapeno. However, my store was out of jalapenos. I am using poblanos, which is perfectly fine. Poblano is a little less heat than jalapeno, so if you want less heat, go ahead and use the poblano instead. We also have a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt or sea salt, kind of, interchangeable. It's a coarse grain salt. So if you were to look, you can see that the grains are much bigger than your table salt, which means less sodium. And then we have our 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. We have a 1/2 cup of cilantro that's been roughly chopped up. And then for this recipe, it does call for smoked salmon. Now, we have some food sensitivities to salmon in this home, so I will not actually be including this in the recipe, but if you can, go ahead. It really does round it out and bring out a fullness to it. The issue with finding smoked salmon is the sodium is extremely high. This one was the lowest one that I found. And this is Maury's Smoked Wild Salmon Classic. So no teriyaki, none of that, stuff added in. And if you do look, you're going to see, I don't know if you can see the sodium listed on here, but just for 2 ounces of this, we're talking 590 milligrams of sodium. So that's a lot of sodium to be putting in there. So check your packages, because very often, like 98% of the time, your preservatives are also going to be phosphates. So large amounts of phosphates are within seafood products. So really do some searching if you want to have that smoked salmon. But honestly, if you do want to leave it out like we do, it's a beautiful side salad to have with a lot of different meals. You really won't miss the salmon. But again, I'm going to leave this up to you. Because of food sensitivities, I will not be including it. But just making you aware of it. So we're going to go ahead and start showing you how to put this together. Okay, so we have a large skillet because we've got a lot of those vegetables and such that are going to be going in here. So we've got our skillet going, and we want to put the skillet to a medium-low heat. So for me, that's usually, about a 2 or a 3. Every stove is different, so, use your own judgment on what is best for yours. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this pan warmed up a little bit, and then we're going to add the oil to it. Okay, now that the pan's warmed up some, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our oil, and we're going to let that warm up just a little bit here. And then, excuse me, we are going to add our leeks to this pan here. Let's get this oil kind of swirled around, covered there. And with leeks, they are a very mild flavor. They're kind of somewhat delicate because as you can see, these pieces, they're very thin little pieces. Each one of the layers is pretty thin. So we want to cook these on a lower heat. We don't want to cook these to death. So we're going to put these in here. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to cook these, about 1 minute. Because we're going to be further cooking other vegetables in here, we don't want to cook them too long. Just go ahead and break up some of the little pieces that are all kind of still clumped together. Just kind of spread them out a little bit. Okay, so you can see how the leeks, after they've been cooking for about a minute, how that green has really kind of popped. It's got this beautiful bright green color. So that's another good indication that tells you we're ready to throw in the garlic. So let's toss that in there. Now this we're only going to cook for about 30 seconds. With the garlic, you don't want to cook it too long because it can easily burn. So we are just going to cook it about 30 seconds. Kind of bloom it a little bit, get that flavor brought out. And you're also going to be able, of course, to smell it. All right, so after 30 seconds, we're going to go ahead and we are going to add our diced red bell pepper. Oh, so pretty with all these colors. All right, and what we want to do is we want to cook the pepper until they are soft, which is going to take about 4 to 5 minutes. You'll know they're ready when you will be able to easily take your utensil and just kind of push downward on them, and they should snap pretty easily with very little resistance. So we're going to go ahead and let this cook for about 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, now if you look at the pan, you can see how the pepper looks pretty well cooked. And if I take a part right here and I just kind of push, how easily that just broke apart, then you know that it is ready. Okay, so we are going to add in the zucchini squash, and we are adding in our tomatoes. All right, kind of stir that up there. Now we're going to sprinkle in our salt and pepper. Now I do want to make a note that if you are in fact going to use the salmon in the recipe, omit the salt because otherwise, the sodium is going to get pretty high. If you're not using the salmon, go ahead and add the kosher salt. Then we're just going to cook this about 1 to 2 minutes. We don't want the squash to become too soggy. So really, we're just kind of warming the tomatoes and the squash up. Okay, so we've been warming up for almost 2 minutes. And you can see how the zucchini is looking kind of like a bright yellow, especially like on the sides with the skin there. And that's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do is turn off the heat. We don't want to cook it any further. We are going to add in our corn. So you can see now why we need the bigger size skillet, because we're really filling this thing up. And then we are also going to add in the poblano or jalapeno, whichever you're using. And we're going to add in our cilantro, which always sticks to the bowl. Always. All right. So if you are using the salmon, it calls for 4 ounces, so you'll want to take the salmon out of the package and you'll want to shred it up or flake it, basically. And then at that point, you would be adding the salmon in with the corn and cilantro and the pepper. And you would be mixing that all up. And then you're just going to stir this up really well. That way we can assure that every bite is going to have a little bit of every one of these wonderful ingredients. And again, using the fresh corn, it really, really brings a brightness and a crispness to this that really can't be beat. But again, in the off season, go ahead and use the canned. Okay, so to serve this up, let me grab my bowl here. So for a serving, it is 1 cup if you want to do like maybe a light lunch. Otherwise, if you're doing this as a side dish to a meal, you could simply do a 1/2 cup. So it kind of works either way. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to portion out 1 cup of this. So you guys can see, if you're having it as a light lunch, what we're kind of talking about here. Go ahead and I'm going to dump that right in there. All right, so this is what you're going to be looking at for a nice lunch. Otherwise, again, cut this in half as a beautiful side dish, especially for, the summertime if you're doing, barbecues and that kind of stuff. This is really great. And I think, given with all the luscious sweet corn that would be in there, especially when it's fresh in the summer, the kids are going to love this too. So you got pops of sweet, you got, your savory and the fresh cilantro. It's really a beautiful salad. It's one of our favorites. So as you can see, it really didn't take very long at all to make. And again, if you want, add in that salmon. Given that you'll be adding that in, it might make a little bit more than a cup or 1/2 cup, but you can do that if you wish. So, I hope you were able to enjoy watching today's cooking segment. Check out our Kidney Kitchen website to see a lot more delicious recipes, like this one. So as a reminder, be sure to follow any recommendations from your doctor. Read the nutrition labels, always. And, feel free, share this recipe with a friend. So take care. Thanks.